So I got my punch list here. There's a few things we need to clear up on this before we can just call this engine compartment and exterior here done. We need to get the oil pressure gauge working. It doesn't work right now. I don't know what the problem is. We got to track that down real quick. We need to get the air filter and housing installed on the engine somewhere where it doesn't get in the way of anything. It's pretty big. We need to get some wipers, and we need to get a coolant overflow tank and a couple other little odds and ends. We need to get some wire loom on this and make it looking good, stuff like that. So I don't know, let's get into that and just clean up some things. I know it's boring and everything, but I'm gonna skim through it and make it just as quick as possible to get these items off our punch list, and then all this stuff will be done. We can move on to some fun stuff like the interior, hopefully, or other things that I don't know yet. We'll see. Anyway, let's get into it. Well, we need an air cleaner for this. I'm gonna reuse the original air cleaner assembly, even though it's extra large. This is a big diesel engine and there's room for it in here. I see no reason to change that. This did not have a filter element in it. When we got that, we're gonna fix that. I have this filter element that has a date code of February 1982. It's been sitting on a shelf. I'm sure it's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. Before you criticize me, this is an air filter, not an oil filter, so... And it's not like it's been sitting in the sunlight or anything. The rubber is still pliable. Anyway, we're going to give it a go. I'll let you know if it fails and sucks all that filter paper into the engine and ruins this whole project, but it probably won't. It was cheap, that's the important thing. So the way this was put on before was that housing was just jammed right on there, and I think they ran a clamp around it, and that's the way it's made to do it. But anytime I see one of these conversions with an industrial engine like this, usually they've kept the Donaldson filter or the commercial filter that comes with it, and they've stuffed it in there, especially on these Isuzu ones, and well, it seems to work. So I think we're going to do that. The only problem is when they do that, I don't know if you can see this, but this says top because this is meant to keep rain out of your intake on an industrial engine, and I don't think we have the hood clearance to do it that way, and I don't think it was mounted that way, so we're going to mount it sideways like they had it maybe. Anyway, let me get this apart and we'll jam her in there and, well, basically see what we have, because I don't remember, it's been so long. I'm not sure. My original plan was to extend this out a little bit. Let's see, I think this was tilted down like this. That way you're pulling all that hot air right off the engine. Maybe it was backwards. Maybe it was this. No, it could have been like that because of the AC box. They must have had it like this. That's not great, but boy, I wish it wasn't pulling that hot air right from there. Even though that's the way it was. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't know that there's much I can do with that, though. And this clamp hooked to that bracket. I don't remember how, but it did. How did they... Oh, they had it clamped around this bracket like that. Okay. Let this parallel with that bracket so it doesn't flop around there. You know, use our zip ties there since, well, there's no other good way to hold that. Clamps to the bracket. I don't know. I don't like this, but I think we're going to have to do it that way. Wow, it's going to be pulling in all the hot air. Well, we're not doing this build for efficiency, that's for sure. More importantly, I can still get to everything. I can get to the air supply. I can get to my air quick connect fitting over there if I need to fill a tire. I need to fill that tire right there. I don't know. Let's see if we can get the air filter in. Goes in this way, I guess. You can tell it hasn't been ever installed because this. And we still got the proper metal faces wing on rubber and metal gasket. Either side faces wing on all rubber gasket. I don't know, but this does have the rubber end here to kind of seal it off. I'm not sure what the... Do not use oil. Remove this baffle to empty dust. I guess dust is supposed to get caught in there. I'm not sure. Make sure that faces down, I suppose. No, that's top. Make sure that faces up. Huh, okay. Alright. What if we can get this in without... Oh, yeah, we can. Well, maybe. Get in there. Where's the... Oh, there we go. Oh, look. That's why they even got the original rubber gasket in there. That's still good. Well, okay. This is surprising me. This is surprising me a lot. I didn't think it would be in this good condition, honestly. Just get an air filter to get in there in the meantime while we do all our testing here. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that is... I'm gonna tap on the end here a little bit with a tapping device and see if I can just make sure it's seated in there. I guess that's all I can do. Run a hose clamp around there. Maybe tilt it up a little bit more this way to... It's our hood clearance. I don't know. I mean, we'll see if it bangs the hood or not, I guess. Tighten this up here to lock it in. I don't know. This might work. Let's tighten some bolts down and see what happens here. Yeah, it does shut like this. And to give you an idea of the durability of these GoPros, I just slammed that hood down with the GoPro sitting right here. Because I'm an idiot. And I thought, you know what? It didn't go. It must be hitting something. Rather than look for that something, let's try and slam it again. So I slammed it even harder on top of the GoPro. Oh. Okay, let's continue on here. All right, I don't like it. It's not the most ideal thing in the world because of that picking up all the engine heat. The ideal thing in the future would be to put a 90-degree silicone elbow on there and kind of run some kind of air intake down here, you know, to the front, around to the grill. I don't know. That's what we're gonna run for now because I don't want to spend extra time on that. That's kind of like putting the finishing touches on, and I don't need to do that right now. So I think that'll all fit under the hood. And I can get to everything over there, and that's the most important thing. So, air cleaner installed. All right, it is test time. All right, so we're gonna test this air filter. Hopefully it'll sound a little different. Hopefully you won't be able to hear. Usually when you put an air filter on, you can't hear quite as much of the, you know, noises of injectors and things going on there, but I don't know, we'll see. It'll still be clicky clacky noisy. So one of the things this truck did not have, and still doesn't have, is a coolant overflow tank. They did, they just ran, you know, a hose from here just straight down to the dirt. Well, I like a coolant recovery tank because I can look at it and I can see, you know, what the coolant level is just by looking at it. And, you know, it does allow for expansion, contraction, and will keep your radiator all the way full instead of having an air gap at the top. Because as it heats up in a normal engine, the way it operates, it heats up all the way to the top, and then excess pressure overcomes this cap and runs out the overflow tube and disappears. And then as it contracts back down again. So on a cold engine, you don't have that full. When it's hot, sure, it's, you know, because it'll fill up to the same level again and just not overflow because there won't be enough to do it. But you always have a little bit of an air gap up there. Anyway, to keep all of the air out of your system, the proper way to do it is a coolant overflow tank. And while it's not terribly important, we are going to do it because also I don't like losing even a little bit of coolant. So I think there's plenty of room to mount a tank over here. So I'm pretty sure we can do that. I don't want to mount it in the way. You want to be able to access your headlights to change bulbs and things. And so maybe we'll mount it, and we need to be able to get this off. So I don't know. Maybe back here-ish, but I still need to be able to get the air filter all the way out. Yeah, so there's no way to completely get it like back under this hinge area. It's gonna have to block the air filter a little bit. There's just no way around it. Unfortunately, well, the air filter isn't a very high maintenance item. I guess to change the air filter then what you're gonna have to do is take this whole case off. That's gonna be a pain. Let's see what I have for tanks and where I can put it. I might just put it here beside the battery and worry about the, you know, headlight access later. Let's see what we got. So I have this universal tank. This might be small enough to do what we want to do. Let's take a look. Let's see. It's right in that empty space where you can't screw it in, but put it there. It's right in the way of the air filter. Pretty much anywhere here, all the way up to the hinge it is. Well, what about that bottom? Nope, bottom doesn't align there either. That's really inconvenient. I guess we've got to put it here just because there's nowhere else to mount it. It's nice and visible there, but air filter, not good. We put it over there and just run a really long hose. No, there's no space over there with the hinge. Unless you mount it like weird on the fender, and I'm not doing that. Yeah, we're gonna have to block the air filter. Alright, it's not good practice, but we don't have much of a choice. Yeah, that'll probably work. Alright, let's, I think self-tappers will work. Let's see what we got here. Alright, installed. It'll suck some down in and then probably be about the normal zone if it's working properly. I also saw these hoses were getting a little dangerously close to the fan, in that if they flexed a little bit they could probably hit a fan blade, and well, I decided just tie them back. It's safer. Alright, this windshield wiper motor, it works, except that it's not parking in the correct position to correspond to the linkage parking position. It's parking at about 45 degrees. I don't know if it's the motor, I don't know if it's the linkage, and I don't know if it's something I did when I put this new motor with the older style linkage. I'm not sure. Let's dig into this and check this out and see what's going on here. Somehow the registration in this motor got messed up between the plastic gearing here and the metal shaft that it sits inside. All I did was spin the metal shaft inside the plastic gear to align properly with the linkage. So as you can see, I've made my horizontal mark there. And so if we turn the wipers on, get them spinning all nice, and then we shut it down, it returns properly to the horizontal home position now. Now, obviously the connection between that gear and the metal shaft has weakened over, say, a new one, you know, because it's twisted inside of it. But it is pretty tight, so unless somebody's grabbing those windshield wipers or something and really stalling those gears out, I think this will hold up for the time being. So this should be ready to mount wiper arms on. Let's do a full demonstration as if we had a wiper arm on there. As you can see, it's going the full range, and it shuts off in the proper position. So I think our wipers are resolved. So we don't have a washer tank for this thing, and even if we did, the factory one wouldn't have the pump mounted on it. It would be on the wiper motor. So I found this kit online for relatively cheap, and I think we can mount it. I don't know, we can like mount it on here, and then I think it'll work just fine. I guess we take it out of this bracket and mount the bracket. There's recesses for the screws in there, and you It comes with some line and things to hook things up, but we don't have even our wiper arms on yet. I think what I'm going to do, the original round eye trucks like this one have squirters. I believe they're mounted on the underside of the hood, and the line runs up, and then when you close the hood, then they're lined and they squirt on the windshield. We're not going to do that. The later wiper arms for these trucks, the 81 and later with the squared off front end, they have squirters on each wiper arm, and you just hook up each wiper arm and then it squirts right on the windshield from there. So I think I'm going to order wiper arms of squirters, and we'll run the hose up to each wiper arm individually then. Well, not individually, we'll tee it off, but you know what I mean. That's the way we're going to do it. So let's mount this tank on here. I think it was the factory tank would have been screwed into these holes here. Maybe we can reuse one of those, I don't know. And we already have our wires up there from when we did the harness. So let's put some of this on and see what we wind up with. So I took the tank out of the bracket, and it just goes right into this. Even with the screw they give you, it just screws right in there. And it's nice and sturdy. It's not going to be a heavy tank because it's just a small one. I think that'll work just fine. This kit's pretty cool. I didn't know this. I just ordered it for the tank and the pump that it comes mounted with. They give you squirters that you can mount, as well as an activation switch. This is a really good thing. If you have a hot rod, I feel like this would be, and they're not plastic, they're metal nozzles in there. I mean, this part's plastic, but the nozzles won't wear down or anything. That's pretty cool, actually. They give you really everything you need. All the clips for the hose, if you want to put it up real nice and have it look fairly decent. Mounting hardware for all this stuff. Pretty cool. I don't know how cheap the switch or anything is, though, but even a wire harness for the pump. Anyway, if you have a hot rod that you're building from scratch or something, this is a real cheap, nice way to go. I don't know, I got this online, doesn't have a brand on it. Sure, that's a good thing. They're so proud of their stuff, they're not even going to put a brand on it, but maybe the original box. I think this was a box instead of a box. Is this ACI? I don't know. It's probably some aftermarket Chinesium knockoff, but I think this will work fantastic for us. And if you were building something where you needed all this stuff and didn't want to buy it individually, well, there you go. Alright, so we're going to hook this up. And it's nice, even you can make this even look semi-professional. You don't even have to put on individual spade connectors or anything like that. Pretty slick. All right, let me slot this into position and see how everything's going to line up here. So I've got this hooked up just temporarily. I don't know if this motor will run both ways. I'm sure it's just a little DC pump, but I'm going to make sure before I hook it up for sure. So watch that hose there. Watch that hose there and tell me if water squirts out. Put this so we both can see it. I don't know. That'll work. I'm gonna go hit the ignition and the switch, and let's see what happens. Okay, I kept pouring out because it created a siphon because it's downhill, but yeah, that worked. Well, I can hook that up. So this is all hooked up. We got our splices in here. I don't ordinarily like using a lot of butt splices, but in situations like this I really don't have much choice, and I am using the heat shrink waterproof type. It seemed to work fairly well keeping the weather out, so you can criticize me for that, and I completely understand because I don't like them either, but don't have much choice. I'm gonna have to secure this up a little better when we have this all resolved, but for now I'm running it through here. I don't know, I don't think this is the way it's supposed to go. I think it's supposed to go, I don't know. Anyway, that'll be ready to hook to the wiper when we get to that point. And then we'll just have to run a second one over to the other wiper, which I may not have enough of this type of tubing. I'll have to get another type. That's fine. I would like a little bit of a service loop down here of some kind. Like I always like to leave a little slack for, you know, the future in case you need to shorten the tube or, you know, for movement, things like that. But we're going to hook all this to this line and zip it on over to there. Get some of this squared away. Windshield wipers. I haven't put them on yet because I've been waiting for them to come. See this hose going up and it sprays out of that little orifice on the windshield as it's wiping. So this hose, this washer hose, you just got to hook to your main hose and then secure it here somehow. The other ones have special clips and stuff. I'm just going to simulate that. Let's see what we can do here to get a working wiper and washer system. Okay, I've got those hooked up under the cowl, pretty much hidden. We're just gonna have to go with a zip tie on that wiper. Do I care? No. All right, so let's see. So I'm gonna push this. There we go. Okay, it's working. One on. So we need to make the engine compartment look a little nicer. And in the spirit of saving money, as I usually try to do, I have a box of miscellaneous wire loom. It was in my parts trailer. Those are for taillight wires. I know I had a set of those. That's pretty cool. But this is all mostly new. There might be one used piece in there that might be salvageable, but these are basically leftovers from other jobs where if somebody wants wire loom and, you know, there's cutoffs and stuff, they don't want that trash laying around, so I just take it. And so we're gonna try to make it look halfway decent here with what we got. Hopefully we won't have to order anything. I got all different sizes in here, so let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna run you through a before here, kind of just show you what we're buttoning up here if you're not familiar with it. Not a whole lot, but there are some wires that I would like to get looking nicer, so let's get to work on that. All right, well, we got most of the wires bundled up. There's a couple little ones I'm not going to worry about, but that at least makes it look a little better. A little bit. We don't quite have the what looks like chaos that we had before, so hopefully that's better, and hopefully we have a little bit of heat protection and stuff in there too. So that's what we were going for. Not perfect, but better. So there's one more thing I'd like to clean up here in the engine compartment. I did the alternator. I just left this generator light hanging here, and it's not ideal for a number of reasons. One of them is it looks ridiculous. I think I'd like to replace it with a dummy load, and I have a bunch of resistors. What are these? 5 watt at 50 ohms. You do have to be able to take some heat, so you want a little bit more of a high wattage rating on a resistor if you're just going to throw it in there. And basically we'll just replace this light bulb with a dummy resistor, dummy load, and hopefully that'll do the trick and it won't look quite as ridiculous and maybe last a little longer, because if this light burns out you're going to lose your alternator. It's not ideal. Alright, resistor installed. It's hidden in there for now. I'm not going to tape it or button it up anything until I confirm that it works and that we don't need to add any more dummy resistors. So, you know, that'll make that a little bit more better for the long term. Okay, oil pressure gauge. So when we first put these gauges in, we had this problem where the oil pressure just reads off. But at lower pressures, like when it's cranking, you know, 20, 40, you can actually see it read, so it is reading. I'm not sure what the deal is exactly. So I've got my ohm meter hooked up, and only the out wire is hooked up, the sensor wire. But we get no resistance out of that sender, none. Oh, now it's registering. Why is it registering now? That must be the max. Okay, so fully grounded is 0. So I think basically what that tells me is the sender is bad. Guess I'll have to find another one somewhere. All right, so let's see if we can find an oil pressure sender that goes along with this gauge. So I have a new oil pressure sender here. That's supposed to be the right spec. I don't know. I hooked it up. We're gonna see if that changes it and fixes the issue. We'll find out. Easy way. Run it, see if it works. If not, then maybe we have a gauge issue or something. But based off of our testing, I don't think we do. I think it was the sender, but we'll run it and find that out. Alright, so I've temporarily, at 33 psi, I've temporarily put a resistor in the line, kind of to check the wire. We know the wiring's good, because I've got it directly to the other post, the ground post for this. I don't know. Let's, I'll check it with my meter here. Okay, so when I touch it here across the sender, I get I was getting something, now I'm not. Hard to do this one-handed. Well, I was getting something for a minute there. Okay, I did get a reading, now I'm not. So I have to check my specs. So I'm getting 3 point something mega ohms that sensor is putting out. I don't think that's the right spec. You know, I think it's out of the range of the gauge, because when I put a resistor on it to simulate like 50 ohms, that would be within its range. That's 33 psi. It works. I think the sender is putting out way too much. I'm not sure why. I guess I got to look into that. I don't remember. I got it for the same spec, so I don't know. Maybe a lower spec. I'll have to look into that. Anyway, the resistor for the alternator is working. Normal voltage at idle. What else? Oh, the vacuum for the brakes. Now the problem with running this kind of little vacuum pump on here, I was worried about how much, like how long it could put out a heavy vacuum. And if you're standing there with your foot on the brake pedal, it's fine. But if you're repeatedly pumping it, you only get about 6 pumps before it bleeds down and has to catch up again. I don't know if that's acceptable, but we're going to find out when we actually drive it. Hopefully you won't be pumping the brakes too much, but even so, it doesn't really drop down below 5 psi, which is enough for a little bit of boost. I don't know, we'll see when we actually drive it for the first time. What do you think of that seating position?
I think it's perfect.
You know, drape your, there you go. You get those ape hangers. Yeah.
Basically put like some 4 little handlebars on here.
What do you think of that clutch?
It's not as bad as I expected it to be,
Yeah.
but I'm barely tall enough to press it all in.
So Josh here is used to hydraulic clutches and not mechanical clutches.
Yeah.
So, well, you drove the crew cab. That was the same clutch.
But it was weird. It was still weird.
It takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
Pull that handle out for me.
This?
Yep. All the way.
Yeah, it threw me for a loop. That's why I asked you about it, because I forgot it was a diesel.
172, not bad. That seems to be where it likes to, whereaboutish. Okay, apparently I was wrong. I mean, no surprise there, but the wiring on this, G is the sensor wire, not ground. the case is grounded, and WK stands for the alarm. Like if it would get too low, it would turn on a warning light, for instance. So I've moved the grounds for the other gauges down here. This is a copper line. It's all copper and brass all the way down to the engine block, and if not, this metal bracket is against the sender. Well, let's see if it works. If not, we'll try to put a ground directly on here, but I think there's several grounds there. It should be okay. So yeah, I mean, again, you were probably laughing at me if you understood what these things meant for sensors, but even the manufacturer was unclear on that. I had to go to the manufacturer of a different sender to actually find these labeled. So I'm assuming it's the same for this sensor, if those are like industry standard or something. Anyway, let's start it up and see what happens. Yeah, so we got oil pressure. Yeah, that was the problem. Okay, oil pressure resolved. So that's a few odds and ends cleaned up. We are getting to the fun stuff like the interior and the truck bed really soon. I promise it's coming, but we're trying to get these things out of the way, and I know on a normal build online, especially on YouTube channels, because of time restraints, a lot of people gloss over them when they're doing a build. I want to show the nitty-gritty stuff and everything that goes into this, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing it. I know it's boring, just bear with me. I want to have every section of this documented, and you know, maybe that way people won't be so quick to complain when builds cost a lot of money these days, because there's a lot of things that go into a highly customized build like this. So I don't know what we're doing next time, but we're gonna keep cruising forward with this because I really want to see this done. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff, all the usual stuff. And as always, thanks for watching.